Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of So Much Good, a YMC podcast brought to you by yours truly, Ray Harvey, VP of Strategy. Today I have with me Mason Dupree. He is our AI and automation manager. And we're really just going to go back and forth today about AI and where we see it going in 2026. So, Mason, take it away. What's the news with AI?
I think there's a lot going on. I think the one constant variable in the AI world is that everything changes very fast, and things are
Amen.
constantly out. I know a couple of the things. I mean, Claude Code is a big discussion right now, where you can kind of have an AI agent help you code a lot of custom projects. I think Google just unveiled sort of a world generator where you could take a photo and then act as a character and run around that environment, which is pretty crazy. Um, and AI generation in terms of video content and image content has really been stepped up lately, and they're even getting really good at matching voices to videos too. So having characters and consistent voices and consistent characters through long form videos beyond 10 seconds is becoming a real thing. um yeah there's some wild things going on.
Yeah, it's actually funny because the other day we posted something on social and it was Bo's blog, but Sarah, our social media manager, used my voice that she had cloned from my voice from an AI cloner. And so I saw it and was like, whoa, that's me. But I didn't actually say that. So it was a crazy thing to see and actually witness being it like so personal and in your face. When it comes to financial institutions for credit unions, what do you see happening? What's the best case scenario there? What's the best case or use case for it? Um, when it comes to AI, like you said at the beginning, 6 months from now, this could probably all be different. 6 weeks from now, it'll all be different because it's moving so fast. But when I think of credit unions and member relationships and just the experience as a whole, what we're actually seeing these days is we're starting to see the start of the AI native member, right? So we had the digital native member, which is the millennials, the Gen Zers, whatever that may be. But then we're talking about now, what does AI look like? Who is that going to affect? The answer is everyone, and from operations to finances to marketing. But when it comes to AI and credit unions, how do you see that kind of meshing together?
Well, I think one of the big topics right now is also sort of agentic search. So a lot of, especially younger folks, which credit unions are always trying to find a way to get in front of. I've started using AI more of a as a search tool, and I do that myself. I mean, constantly throughout the day, if I have a question or there's something that I want to know more about, especially finance products, um, I'll use ChatGPT or whatever to be able to get a great sort of broad overview. And I can kind of feel okay with it maybe not being 100% accurate because it's going to give me a far better gist than what I would have had otherwise. And then it also helps you really get into the deeper nuances, answer specific questions. It's kind of a carefree environment where you can ask whatever you want to, and not have to worry about looking dumb or whatever in front of any sort of older, maybe more knowledgeable person. If you were to walk into a credit union and ask these questions. Um, I think that's definitely going to change the way that young people find businesses, products, services. And so finding a way to show up and rank for some of those suggestions is definitely going to be something that credit unions, as well as, marketing agencies like us, are going to have to really focus on for our clients to make sure that we're ranking there. Um,
Yeah, and that's going to be, it already is huge. It's already affecting a lot, right? AI isn't coming, AI is here. And so we've actually been talking at YMC for a little bit about just the AEO optimization. How do you do it? What does it look like? Again, in the last 6 months, it has changed drastically and it will continue to evolve and change. One way that we have kind of started working on it with our clients is obviously through your website content. We know for now, at least, that those LLMs, those AI agents, they're pulling from websites, right? So a couple of takeaways here just for credit unions is the idea of you can be everything to everybody has to stop. You have to know what you're specializing in. That's the starting point, right? So if you are big into business lending, go all in into business lending, and let's start making content for that. And by content, I mean videos, blog posts, really letting those robots on the www, the World Wide Web, really crawling everything on your website, which leads me to that second point, right? The website is still relevant for now. Yes, we're going to see traffic drop to your websites because people are going to start getting information from just the AI chats themselves. But those chats, as of right now, have to get that information from somewhere. And so the website itself has to be strong. It has to be, or else all of this other stuff doesn't matter. And so what I can expect and what I predict to happen is, yes, we'll see a drop in website traffic. We'll definitely see a drop in branch traffic, because people who are coming into the branches now asking these questions could literally just go to ChatGPT or Claude or whoever it may be and say, hey, what's the best rate for X, Y, and Z? And get that answer immediately. The goal, though, is for when they do that, the credit union shows up, right? Your credit union shows up. So when you think about that, what are some different ways that we could practically, not necessarily saying like, hey, credit unions, you have to do X, Y, and Z, but what are some kind of takeaways the credit unions could say, all right, let's start working on this on our side while YMC is working on their side?
Yeah, well, I think operations, definitely need to be smooth. I think, general browsing traffic will probably slow down, but it's going to be higher intent traffic that then ends up still making it to the website. They're there to convert, if that makes sense, to fill out some form or whatever it is. They've decided on what they're looking for and they're here to purchase, if that makes sense. And so you need to be ready and willing to, take that loan application, however that would be. And you were talking about relevance, and I think that's another important thing, is really getting clear on what it is you're offering, and then making, blog post content, which is kind of our job, right, for our clients. It's very relevant and very specific to that, so that AI, when it's doing its searching, try and bring up results, has good information to go off of and rank high. So credit unions are usually in very specific communities. They have very specific offerings specific to that community. I think having that present on the website with blogs, things like that, really helps with being able to rank. And then, we've already been working on SEO with clients prior, and that's because those ones were trained on. So we've got that benefit. We just need to make sure that we're showing up in the active search. And then, like I said, making sure that the landing pages are clean and streamlined so that people can take action where they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Where do you see, and I think I have my own answers to this, but even from a marketing standpoint, right? That's going to drastically change. It already is drastically changing because of AI. Where do you see us in a year or so? What happens? Is it as simple as saying those who can prompt the best are going to be the winners, or is there something else that we're missing?
I think early adopters are definitely going to be favored, like in any scenario, just because you're going to see, you have to keep up with a lot, but through that, you're going to find what works and what doesn't early. And, when it comes to AI and how it'll impact marketing, a year from now, I think what it does a really good job of is sort of democratizing technology, and also bringing what would be, very expensive services down in cost and things like that. So we're able to do more with less and have a larger impact, and scale a bit more of our output. In terms of creatives and things like that, I think AI is still it's very easy to tell when something's AI. But we're very quickly approaching we're passing the Turing test very soon on what is AI generated in terms of video and image. And once that's kind of passed, then, any client, any credit union of ours could have, professional level, ads and things like that would usually have, whole recording spaces, thousands and thousands of dollars of cameras, all things that would be passed on in cost to, to customers, the credit union. So, yeah, I think it's going to enable us to do a lot more at a larger scale. And it'd be more relevant and specific to what the union needs.
Yeah. So going back to what I mentioned a few minutes ago, where would you, as the AI and automation manager, where would you tell the credit unions to start? Obviously, we have our relationship with our partners, but if I'm a CEO of a credit union, what questions should I be asking? What should I be looking at?
Yeah. Well, I think, you already have the advantage in your own business, in your own lane, because you are the one that will ask the right questions to AI in order to get it to help you with what you're doing. I know that sounds a little broad, but basically, only what kind of standard operation procedures you guys have. And, maybe you're the first credit union to actually put that into ChatGPT and figure out how to improve it. And so it's really, it's the people who are in their lane, in their alley, that are able to actually kind of be able to ask the right questions to get the most out of it. And so really it just starts with asking, if you have a device or, rather, like, sort of metaphorically, a book that has every answer in it, you just have to be willing to open it and ask. And, maybe, some of the answers aren't going to be that, I don't know, world changing, but I think, several different smaller changes across, the company as a whole. I mean, several different employees all doing that in their own tasks and things like that is going to make a big difference across the board. and figuring out how to implement AI and how to use AI in their role to make things, better, faster, cheaper, as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. One kind of practical idea that I just thought of is that credit unions could use agents to find friction points, right? They could create an agent that says, hey, take from start to finish, what's my customer experience? Go through the application process, go through the membership process, and find any friction points. From that point, that's huge, right? You find those very quickly, you get rid of them, you fix them. That alone can change lending numbers, membership numbers in a huge way. So there's definitely all kinds of avenues out there that AI is going to benefit credit unions. Yes, we're all scared that AI is going to take our jobs. I do not believe that's going to be the case. I think exactly what you said, those early adopters are going to be the winners, right? They're going to be the ones that say, all right, let's embrace it, let's use it. But we also know that there has to be a human touch element at this point. So, and with credit unions, that's even stronger, right? Because we know that credit unions are huge on their community. Yes, AI can change a community in a heartbeat, but will it know the heartbeat of the community? Probably not. If it does, it's going to spin a lot of facts, a lot of demographics saying this is how many people live here. This is what the content or the demographic makeup looks like. But it's not going to really know the heart or soul of the community that credit union is in. And so that's where I would say, let AI do all of kind of the operation side of things, the stuff that takes a long time. And then credit union CEOs and staff and employees go out with the community, like spread your wings, get deeply rooted in the community that you say you serve, because that's going to be a win-win across the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do you see, okay, let's talk longer term, just AI in general, past 2026. Where do you see AI going? Are we going to be a world run by robots? Are we going to be robot slaves? Like what's happening?
I do think, I talk a lot about the, sort of you can do more. And so there's always going to need to be like a project director, project manager. And I think, there was another CEO that I was watching the other day, and he was talking about how it's really just that a job is a bundle of tasks. AI will take over, particular tasks. And so the idea is that your job will then change once so many of the tasks, are taken over by AI, but it will be new tasks. And I hope I didn't use that, task too many times there, but basically
Say
you're going
task
to,
one more time.
yeah, one more time. But basically it's like you'll take over the task of managing several different agents that do a lot of different things. And so it'll enable you to do more. I mean, um, just processing loan applications and stuff like that. I imagine there's definitely some ways of applying the framework, whatever that standard operation procedure is for approving or, disapproving a loan, in a very specific scenario like this. You can apply that to agents, and then they just give recommendations. You can glance over things and then, make sure that things are valid. At some point, that supervision won't be necessary, and you can kind of rely on it. Enough of these things are coming along with enough general intelligence. I like the example you gave earlier of having an agent go through your website, because they're really getting to the point where they can manage browsers. And so they'd be able to go through, literally through as a loan applicant, and see where the friction points are, where things could be better, where things could be clear. Because if a generalized super intelligence can't figure out how to get through your loan application, then you might have an issue.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, because everyday humans that, are struggling with all kinds of things in their day might also have a much harder time, than a super intelligence going through that application. So, there's definitely ways of applying these agents to reducing friction, applying these agents to help you produce more content. And then also just ways of saving, time and money in other places so that you can, like you said, go out into the community. I mean, in terms of like creating marketing products and things like that, that's stuff that we can help with and get done so that you can go out, visit schools or colleges or, wherever it is your customer base might be, and be able to reach them, your member base may be, and reach them and have those opportunities to connect. And you're right. A lot of these AIs don't have access to the localized context that you guys have. And so it's important that you bring that context, what you know about your community, to the AI, and it'll help leverage it. If that makes sense. It adds an extra point of scale.
Yeah, that's huge. And you just hit on a point too that kind of goes with what we've always said at YMC, right? Like if you've heard anybody at YMC talk to leadership, one of the first things that comes up is task saturation. And so we always like to say, you're not too busy, you just didn't make it a priority. Well, now that AI is here, the reality is there's no excuse. Like you didn't make it a priority and we have AI that can do it for you, which frees up your time. And
Mhm.
so my kind of final statement to credit union leadership is, if you're not talking about AI, start having those conversations across every person in the organization, the board, the front line, the back office. Just start talking about it. Start playing around with it. Use it. Get comfortable with it, and really get creative in the questions that you ask. Can you increase productivity by 50% because AI can take 50% of the task away from whoever's doing it? That doesn't mean that person is less busy. That just means it frees them up to do things that actually matter. Um, so with that, what would be your final statement to credit union leadership?
I would say stay open, constantly just be playing with it yourself. I mean, always be, if you ever think to yourself, is this question too difficult for AI? I would never assume that, I would always put it in and really try. You'll be shocked at what you can find, and that will put you on the bleeding edge of what it's able to do. And so, constantly stay learning, constantly try new things like that. And that'll help you stay, ahead of this wave.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. That's huge. Well, of course, if you guys have any AI questions, we will be happy to answer. Feel free to reach out to us. You can give us a call. You can email us. Mason and I will always be willing to talk about it. We love talking about it, as you can see. So cheers to the future. Cheers to wherever AI may lead us as credit union partners and credit unions. And stay tuned.